Bom, a gente tem o último painel agora da nossa parte da manhã, é de um assunto que particularmente me toca muito, que é a educação. Se a gente tem que fazer muitas coisas, a gente precisa aprender e ensinar para quem está vindo que continue fazendo também. E como fazer isso pela mudança, né? Como fazer isso pelo futuro que a gente acredita. Então, eu tenho o maior prazer de convidar para dividir aqui com a gente um pouco da micro-revolução, roubando a palavra da Alice, que ele já está fazendo na Índia. Manish Jain. Ele é fundador da Shikshantar, The People's Institute for Rethinking Education and Development, na cidade de Udaipur, no Rajastão, na Índia. E, em 2010, ele também criou a Swaraj University, que oferece aos participantes, alfabetizados ou não, a possibilidade de escolher os seus próprios líderes e de aprender de acordo com os seus sonhos, e não apenas para ganhar um pedaço de papel. Então, Manish, vem contar para a gente como desaprender para aprender. Be welcome, Manish.
So, bom dia, everyone. I want to make a couple of apologies before I start. So, one thing I would like to apologize for is my lack of Portuguese. And the second thing is for this kind of setting, what I'm going to be sharing with you will show that there's a big hypocrisy of mine to be standing up here and talking. So this is kind of, the setup is kind of reproduction of the classroom, which I will be raising some questions. So I want to apologize for this, but hopefully we can make it a little bit more interactive than just a one-way talk. Let me start out by, can we maybe share a little game? Yeah? Is it good? Okay, can everyone stand up? So this is a special game. It's so thrilling for me to be here today in Brazil, in the land of particularly two heroes of mine, Paulo Freire and Augusto Boal. So really fantastic. So this game is dedicated to them and to India, Brazil, friendship and fusions, co-creations. So this is called Namaste Oi, the name of it. So everyone knows what Namaste means, I hope, yes? So it means the divine being in me bows to the divine being in you. So, and Oi, I think you know what it means? Yeah? Okay, good. So, what I want you to do is look to people, look around, all the people who are sitting around you, and give them a Namaste Oi. Nice one. Front, back, up, down, left, right. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Okay, so there's another one. Come, Deborah. This is my assistant. Just stand there. Yeah. Thank you. So the next Namaste Oi is like this. Namaste Oi. Give it around to everyone. Share. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Okay. Now another one. Deborah, come. Okay, like this. Namaste Oi. Knee to knee. Namaste Oi.
Namaste Oi.
Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Yeah. Okay, here's the next one. Namaste Oi, head to head. Don't break anybody's head though. Don't give anyone a concussion, please. Namaste Oi.
No, sorry.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Okay, and the last one is we have a phrase in India called Jadu ki Jappi. Jadu ki Jappi. It means the great Indian magic hug. So welcome everybody here in the room. Give them a Jadu ki Jappi with a Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi.
Oh, desculpa. Namaste, oi, Manish. Namaste.
Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Namaste Oi. Okay. Great. So you can share this. There's no copyright on it. We believe everything in copyleft. Hopefully there won't be any Namaste Oi t-shirts. Great. So as a friend said, my name is Manish. I'm come from a very faraway place, Rajasthan. It's a land of deserts and palaces and lakes and kings and queens and all kinds of beautiful things. And I hope that you all can come and visit there one day. But I just landed last night, so half my body is in Rajasthan still and half is in Rio. And my work is around really what I call reclaiming our cultural imaginations. That the starting point is that our imagination has been colonized. And how do we start to reclaim diverse imaginations? There's a term called TINA. Have you heard of TINA? TINA means there is no alternative. So then to follow kind of the American dream, or if you want to call the American nightmare, there's no other alternative than to follow that. So when we start to reclaim our cultural imaginations, we can start to see other paths forward or backwards, depending on, again, what emerges. So, and the other thing I do is to support a whole large movement of what we call walkouts. So these are people who are walking out of the system, walking out of their government jobs, walking out of their corporate jobs, walking out of their colleges and universities, walking out of their schools, and they are walking on to creating the kinds of alternatives that we need for the well-being of all in the planet, and the well-being of the planet as well. So we have a very large movement. I wanted to start a little bit by sharing a story. You guys like stories? Yes? No? Everyone's like, yeah, okay. So, so this story is in a village. So it's a village. There once was a little girl who lived in the village. She was about maybe 11, 12 years old, and she never went to school. And everyone thought she was really wild and uncivilized, and she was always singing, and she was running around in the fields. She used to help everyone, but everybody used to look at her like she was nothing, like she was just a creature, not a human being. And in the village there also was an old lady. She lived on the mountain alone. And everybody was afraid of this old lady. They thought she was a witch. They knew she had very special powers. And one day, the little girl became friends with the old lady. Nobody else dared go to the house of the witch because they thought that they would. She was also a little bit, grumpy. She wasn't very nice all the time. But this girl became very good friends, and she would help the witch, and she would take, food sometimes for her, fruits for her, help her fetch the water, and she would be running around. So one day, there was a drought in the village. drought, no water. And the crops started drying up, and the animals started dying, and everybody was really worried that we'll have to vacate the village and leave. So then the people whispered. They said, we should ask the old lady what to do. Maybe she can help us. So they were all afraid to go to the old lady and ask for help. So they said, oh, call that little girl here. We'll send her to go and ask the old lady. So the little girl went, and she talked to the old lady, told her what was happening in the village. And she came back, and she started singing and dancing to the clouds. And all of a sudden, it started to rain. And everyone was like so relieved and happy. Wow, we saved the village. And but they still didn't like the girl. They said, oh, she's uneducated, she's stupid, she doesn't know anything. A few months later, there was a disease. A disease came to the village, and people started getting very sick. And again, the people said, oh, we're all going to die, so we better, then they whispered, we should go and ask the old lady if she can help. And so they sent the girl again. They said, you go and ask her. So the girl went, and she came back, and she went in the forest, and she brought some different plants from the forest. And she gave it to everybody, and everyone was healed, cured. And everyone felt happy again. But they still didn't like this little girl. They didn't want their children to play with this girl. Then a few months later, this girl, they see her one day, and she's sitting on a giant bird, flying on the back of a bird around the village. And they were wondering, how is this possible? This girl sat on this bird. The bird had like 10 feet long wingspan, and the girl is sitting on the back of the bird and flying all over. And the villagers were like so angry. They're like, this stupid girl, how can she be doing this? This knowledge should be taught to our children. Why isn't this old lady telling us anything? So they got their sticks, and they were very angry. And they said, we're going to teach this old lady a lesson. We're going to teach her that she has to give us all the secrets. Why doesn't she give the secrets to us? So they all got their sticks, very angry. A whole mob of people went. They climbed up the mountain to the little house of the old lady. And they knocked on the door, banged on the door, and they said, the lady opened the door, and they started shouting and shouting, how can you do this? You have to tell us all these secrets. This is not fair. So the lady listened for a while, and they kept going and kept going and going. And finally, those people, they calmed down. Then she said to them, do you want to know why I didn't tell you people? And they said, yes. Why don't you tell us all these secrets? And they said, because you people are too educated. You're in your schools all day. Your science has taught you that the clouds, the mountains, the rivers, the plants, the animals are not intelligent. Your mind is all about taking, hoarding, not about giving. Even your ideas of love are all conditional. It's all about controlling. You believe more in your technologies and your gadgets than you do in the miraculous power of life. So what secrets can I share with you? So when I heard this story, it touched many different things in me. How are you guys feeling after hearing the story? Thinking? Okay. So it reflected a bit of my own journey. I talk a lot about, I should say, I studied at Harvard, and I've been trying to unlearn whatever I learned from Harvard for the last 25 years. And my greatest, when I left Harvard, I actually went and decided I would enroll in my grandmother's university. So my grandmother was very similar to this old woman I was telling you about. And she never went to school. She didn't know how to read and write, but she had amazing powers. And I lived with my grandmother for 9 years. Let me show you one of the things I learned from her. Does anyone know what this is? Anyone know what this is? Cookie. You want to taste it? Soap. This is a soap. So, and the special thing of this soap is that this is made of cow dung, cow shit. How's that for messing with your minds? This is a cow dung soap. So, did everyone ever think they could use cow dung for bathing? No. So, when I was with my grandmother, one day she was having really dry skin, like eczema. You know eczema on the skin? So I said, oh, you should go to a doctor and we should do this and that, we'll take you. She said, no, you have to go to the slum area. We have our own version of favelas in India. They're called bastis. So you go there, some people have some goats there. So you go and you bring back some goat shit from there. So I was like, oh, I'm Harvard-educated guy. How can I go and get goat shit from the favela, from the basti and people? It's so embarrassing. But she's like, no, if you love me, you will go there. So I said, okay. So I went there, brought it back, and I watched her take it, and she started boiling it with oil. And she took it and she applied it to her skin. And the next day, everything was cleared up. And I was like, wow. And then I started asking people about different kinds of shit, different animal shit. Right? And I found out there are so many things, from cow shit to horse shit to squirrel shit to donkey shit. To every animal shit has a value, and people knew how to use it. They understood the intelligence of animal shit. And I started thinking, wow, this is something that my whole idea of what hygiene was, industrial hygiene, industrial sterilized lifestyles got turned on its head, and as I started understanding this. And then I also, so many different stories with her that I learned, and she started questioning this whole mindset of industrial, military, fossil fuel, consumer culture that we have all been indoctrinated in. And so many things started unraveling. So then, because of her, I thought at one point I started believing, and I do believe today, she was more intelligent than my Harvard professors. And so that led me to then go and spend time with indigenous communities also, and so many things also they contributed to my unlearning. Those experiences led me to decide with my wife that when we had children, we weren't going to send our children to school. The little girl, you remember the little girl? So my daughter is like that. I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's never gone to school. She went to school a few times, but you take children to the zoo to show them the caged animals. We had to take her to the school to show her how children are caged against their will and forced to do things that they don't want to do. So she could understand and appreciate the freedom she had to take care of her own learning. So what happened was, I should say something about my mother. So my mother is a pediatrician. She lives in the United States, and she doesn't believe in any of these alternative things. She is my biggest critic, but also my biggest supporter in some ways. So she said, okay, if you're not sending your daughter to school, what if when she wants to go to university, she'll want to go and things? Because not sending her to school, we said we're not interested in any examinations. We're not interested in any textbooks. Let her learn freely and openly from life, from the miracle of life. So my mother said, well, how is she going to go to university if she doesn't do all these exams and things? So I thought about it for a while, and I said, oh, let me start a university. So I started my own university. So the university is 100% illegal and unregistered, but it attracts people from all over the world to come who really want to unlearn. And when I was starting this university, people said to me, I was talking to people, and they said, you need, to start a good, world-class, world-standard university, you need at least $10 million. I was like, well, I only have like $10 in my pocket. What can I do with that? So we created then the first gift culture university in the world. So we have many campuses which people have donated to us to use. We don't believe in ownership. So this is another kind of mental model which is very deeply ingrained into us, is that we are owners. We are owners of buildings, we are owners of land, we are owners of knowledge. So we said we don't want to own anything. And we will operate in the gift culture. So we have one 30-acre campus where I live. These friends have been there and visited it, so they know it's real. And we have like another 25 campuses around the country where people said you can come and use this campus anytime for your university. In the university, we have more than 1,000 faculty all over the country. And all of these faculty are people who are gifting their time. They said anybody who wants to learn can come and they can learn with us. And they are people who are really on the cutting edge of all of these alternatives, whether it's with, organic farming or earth building or natural healing, naturally dyed cloth, community media. They're faculty from all of these areas. And they're people who are doing things, creating the change we want to see in the world. So we said it's better to go and be with people, learn with people who are actually creating the kind of changes, experimenting. The core of our university doesn't start with any subjects. So we have no curriculum, no examinations, no textbooks, no marks, but we have pure learning happening. Pure learning. Real learning is happening. There's no competition. So what we start with is these questions. There's some very core questions, which is, who am I? Right? Who are we? How are we related to each other and to life on the planet? What is our highest purpose for being here together? What is a good life? There's a very interesting person. One of the things, I don't know if you've heard of him, Saint Vinoba Bhave. He was a spiritual successor to Gandhi, very close to Gandhi and after. And he said this beautiful thing. When he was asked about what is a good life, what is a life worth living, and he said, I would like to live a life where I am not exploited and where I don't have to exploit anyone else. I am not exploited and I don't have to exploit any other human being or any other living being on the planet. Can we imagine this kind of life together? So I was very inspired in that, and I looked, nothing I learned in my entire schooling, entire education, formal education, ever helped me think about this question: how could I live a life where I'm not exploited and I don't have to exploit anyone else? And I started also reflecting quite a bit on what the school system does. There's another beautiful saying, if you've ever heard it: the white man who brought the pencil also brought the eraser. Right? The white man who brought the pencil with the school system also brought the eraser. So I started thinking about what got erased because of my education. And I started thinking my connection to the land, my connection to my community, my connection to my language, my connection to my ancestors, my connection to my own histories. All of this got wiped out by formal schooling. Even today, in the city I live in, if children are in schools and they speak the local language, they get punished. Our local language is Mewardi. They're told, no, you have to speak proper English. That's the purpose of schooling. So when we started the university, we wanted to create something very different. We wanted to value experiences, people's knowledge systems, which are grounded in experiences, which are grounded in wisdom, which are grounded in mistakes, right? Mistakes is a bad word in schools. You get punished for mistakes, right? So you try to hide them. Which are grounded, that we learn the most from the mistakes we made. And which are grounded in cheating, right? In school, again, cheating is a bad word. But what is cheating? It's trying to help the other, working together, collaborating to solve a problem. So there was a person, I don't know if you've heard of Ken Robinson. He gave a TED talk on how schools kill creativity. So I said, yeah, I agree with him, except for one case. And I said, when in India, I've seen it, we made a little film on this too. There's thousands of ways that kids use their creativity in schools to cheat. It's amazing. I don't know how, if Brazilians are that creative, but in India, all kinds of creative ways. So there's creativity there. And then now I'm working on a second film, which is all of the ways which children try to escape the school. There's all these kind of escape routes. Again, phenomenal creativity, how they get out and escape the school system. So what I felt was, though, the school system is really damaging us as human beings, and we're not aware of it. It's damaging our senses and our sensibilities, our aesthetic senses, right? That we sit in, I'm sorry, I don't want to be critical, but we sit in rooms like this. When you have this beautiful beaches outside, right? We have artificial lights, right? This is the industrial aesthetic which has taken over our being. So how do we come out of this, right? It labels, I actually believe that we'll look back at schools 50 years from now and say that this was one of the worst crimes against humanity. Millions of innocent children are labeled as stupid, labeled as failures, are told that they have nothing good to offer into the world, right? So we believe now what my work in the world is to try to regenerate other spaces of learning. And so Swaraj University is one such space. People ask, what about degrees? So we are against degrees, and we have a campaign called Healing Ourselves from the Diploma Disease. Right? So all of this, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I have 3 or 6 or 8 letters after my name. No. How do we connect without all of these labels? How do we connect on a deeper level? How do we start to see the wisdom of that old woman, or of my grandmother, or of the children who don't have any degrees? Can we start to see that? So the last thing I wanted to just share right now is there's a certain, we started a couple of years ago, my mother again, remember my mother, the critic? So she said, oh, your daughter has already experienced this Swaraj University. She grew up around it. It's not interesting for her. So now what are you going to do? So I said, okay, we'll create something called the Ecoversities Alliance. So there are now 100 alternative universities all over the world for my daughter to choose from, and for any child who wants to go on an alternate route. And one of them, I think many of you know, is Schumacher College, but there are many, many, many more around the world. And they are experimenting with all kinds of amazing things. I think one of the things that is very common is, one is this fear of degrees. How do we get it out of us? And also the fear around money. So the last thing I'll just share with you is something we do in our university, Swaraj University. It's called the Cycle Yatra. I would love to do this in Brazil with people if you're interested. So we travel, we call the learners Kojis. Koji means seekers, people who are exploring, seeking. The purpose of learning is to find our deepest purpose and meaning, right? So we take them for 1 week on bicycles into villages, communities. Nobody has any money with them, no technological gadgets, no food in your pockets, no medicine with you, and no plan. No plan of what time we're going to go there, where we're going to stay. Nobody knows. We surrender fully to the universe. And we go and we live with communities, we learn with communities, we unlearn many things. And one of the things, for example, I can share that I had unlearned with that was, so I've seen communities, I've stayed at houses, it doesn't even know where the food for tomorrow is coming from. They don't even have food for tomorrow with them. But they are so generous, so giving, so caring in terms of their hospitality and feeding us. And I contrast that to the richest people on the planet who have gone to the best universities. And I wonder, why have their hearts become so cold? Why are they afraid to give, to share? So there's many things. I think today, I would say that the most important thing we have to do in the planet is to unlearn the mindsets, the mindsets that are feeding into the global economy. And there's always this debate of whether you change the economy first. It's like a chicken and an egg. Do you change the economy or change the mindsets? And it's probably a bit of both. But I would like to invite you to, in this question of how do we radically shift our mindsets? How can we imagine other spaces? In the ecoversities I mentioned, there are spaces. Organic farms are declaring themselves as ecoversities. Eco-villages are declaring themselves as ecoversities. Transition towns are declaring themselves. Forests are declaring themselves. Desert communities are declaring themselves as ecoversities. That these are spaces of knowledge, of finding a different way. We've hit the limits of human rationality, of human science, of Western science. It's hit its limits. The crisis we're facing is the limits of that. And it's time to open ourselves up to a new kind of intellectualism. One that starts with embodiment, the wisdom of our bodies, of our hands. One that starts with inspiritedness, the spirits, understanding that there are spirits that are trying to communicate with us. Starting with emplacement, the power of place, the land, the animals. They can communicate. They're alive. They're intelligent. They want to communicate to us. Our formal education doesn't allow for that. And starting with empathy, the language of the heart. How do we open that up? So I invite you to join us in this exploration, in this unlearning revolution. And namaste oi. Yeah. And I'm so thrilled, I'm going to be in, there's one place outside of India which is close, super close to my heart, and that's Brazil. And I'm so thrilled. I'm going to be here for 3 weeks. there's a whole bunch of programs starting with tomorrow that myself and Bio are going to be hosting a workshop. And this friend G and Geraldo, they have a whole bunch of programs planned in Rio, Sao Paulo, Parachi. So it'd be wonderful if you join us for those. Thank you. Can I take 3 more minutes? Huh? Yeah? So I would like you to maybe find a couple of people next to you and take 3 or 4 minutes of something that is gotten stirred or exciting you or really irritating you about what I said. Yeah? So just take a couple of minutes and we'll just listen back. Find a partner and a couple of people and just share something. Even any ideas you have for unlearning, reimagining education. How was it? Okay. Thank you. Where people, even with so-called disabilities, just given through the state and connect. We don't use any of these labels.
Yeah.
Like when you see what other gifts, everybody has some gift. Express those, share those, and it creates a different world.
Yeah. That's very cool. Well, I just have to find a place to take her now.
Okay.
A favela revela aquela que desce o morro e vem transar. O ambiente efervescente de uma cidade a cintilar. A refavela revela o salto que o preto pobre tenta dar. Quando se arranca do seu barraco pra um bloco do BNH. A refavela, como é tão bela, como é tão bela, oh. A refavela revela a escola de samba paradoxal. Brasileirinho pelo sotaque, mas de língua internacional. A refavela revela o passo com que caminha a geração. Do black jovem, do black rio, da nova dança no salão. Ya ya kirie, kirie ya ya. 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 A refavela revela o choque entre a favela, inferno e o céu. Baby blue rock sobre a cabeça de povo chocolate e mel. A refavela revela o sonho de minha alma, meu coração. De minha gente, minha semente, Preta Maria, Zé João. A refavela, a refavela.
So, I would love to hear what you're saying, but they're kicking me off the stage. So I'll be over here if anyone would like to share some things. And I just wanted to leave with you this invitation. I forgot the invitation, which was that each of us can design our own universities. We can design, we can reclaim our own learning and unlearning processes. We can design our own universities, our own ecoversities. And I invite you to enter in this conversation. We have people all over the world who can support you in this process. And let's create the learning spaces that our planet needs. Thank you. And I have Gisele's number here in case you want it. Is it okay I share it? Okay. 219-977-3349. So if you want, it's here. You can just come and take it here then if you like it. And if you want to meet up with us, come. We're going to do Indian cooking and Indian dancing and head massages and all kinds of meditations that we'll introduce in the next few weeks. You want to say anything?
Thank you, Manish.